and we were speaking about the levels of the Baal Tshuva versus Tzaddikim. That we said in the Medrash, it says, Kedoshim Tiyu Yochel Kamoini. The Medrash says, you would think that would be like me, you should be holy. So he says, Ki Kodesh Ani, that my holiness is higher than your holiness. And the Tzemach Tzedek says it's a wonder because how is it possible? Because why would there even be such a Havamina? Why would we even think so? But in L'Kutei Torah, he says that's not a wonder. That's actually there is a type of kedusha that comes about through our avodah, through our isrus d'lesata, and then the kedusha si shalom ma'ila mikdashkhem, that the isrus d'lesata of ma'isa mitzvahs doesn't reach over there, and it only comes down through tshuva, and that's why Baal Tshuva are higher than tzaddikim, because through tshuva they draw down from kedushasi that's higher than kedushkhem. And this is all in continuation of what we spoke about earlier, that there is the different psukim from which we derive or which we speak about concerning the shalosh kedushas, that the gimel kedushas correspond to the three crowns that the king was made. Two he placed in the heads of his children, the one he took for himself. So too the Malachim say 3 times Kaddish, they make crowns for Hashem, and 2 of those Kaddishes Hashem gives to the Yid. And we spoke about that in the Medrash and in the Alter Rebbe, there's different psukim that we derive it from. In general, the psukim are spread out. There is the pasuk in the beginning of Parshas Kedoshim, and then there's a pasuk later. It says Kedoshim Tiyu, and then Kaddish Ani at the beginning of Parshas Kedoshim. Then it says Viskadishtem V'yisem Kedoshim later on, a chapter later. So according to the Alter Rebbe, the Ki Kaddish Ani that says the beginning of Parshas Kedoshim, that's what Hashem put on his own head. And the 2 crowns that he put on the heads of the Yidden, that is where it says Viskadishtem V'yisem Kedoshim. In the Medrash, but it comes out that Kedoshim Tiyu is, and Viskadishtem V'yisem Kedoshim is all considered. Kedoshim Tiyu is 1 crown that Hashem gives the Yidden, and Viskadishtem V'yisem Kedoshim is considered another crown that's considered 1 that's also given to the Yid. Okay, so now let's go on to where we left off. Again, on the 5th page of the printouts, page test, line 5. The Rebbe says, seemingly we need to say, the advantage of Baal Tshuva over complete tzaddikim, we can't say that only Baal Tshuvas have 3 Kaddishes, and tzaddikim also recite and davening 3 times Kaddish. Obviously, they also have the 3rd Kaddish as well. The Kaddish Aleph, hu Kaddish Ani, Kedushasi Shalom Eilam Mikdashkhem. And the 3rd time, when it's, in other words, one of the 3 is the first one. The first one is the one where Hashem says, I am holy. That's according to whichever way we derive it from the psukim, the way the Alter Rebbe does, the way the Medrash does. That's Kaddish Ani, that the Medrash says, Kedushasi Lamayim Kedushkhem. So, if so, what's the difference then? If we're saying that tzaddikim also have the 3 Kaddishes, and tzaddikim, they also have the level of saying Kaddish, the first Kaddish, which refers to Hashem's Kaddish. So what is it, the difference then by Baal Tshuva, that we say that avoid of Tshuva reaches all the way to Kaddish Ani, to Kedushasi L'maylam Kedushkhem, versus tzaddikim that also have this Kaddish Ani, Kedushasi L'maylam Kedushkhem. So the Rebbe explains on line 9, who Shagilu the Kaddish Aleph Tzaddikim, who ba'ofen the Halal L'mayla, the revelation of the first Kaddish of Tzaddikim, where it says Ki Kaddish Ani, that I am Kaddish, is in such a way of an ascent going upwards, meaning, like we mentioned before, there's a level of Mesiras Nefesh, the level of self-sacrifice, that they yearn and they desire to go out of their being, and to become subsumed in the Eibishter's holiness. But what does come down to tzaddikim the way they are down here below, is only the second and third Kaddish. So the first Kaddish by tzaddikim, the level of ki Kaddish oni, the level of Kedushas si, l'maylim Kedushaschem, my holiness is higher than your holiness, is not about it coming down to them, but they need to leave behind who they are and come part of the Eibishter. That is different than how it's about Baal Tshuva. Line 13, or Baal Tshuva, Gam Kaddish Aleph U'Ba'ifin Dam Shach Lamata. Also, the first Kaddish is in such a way of being drawn down here below. So all three Kaddishes come down here below, and the reason for that is that because the Baal Tshuva have this great Maila that through Tshuva they reach so high. But the Rebbe asks practically, in the last line 15, we need to understand how is it possible that the holiness of that I am holy can come down here below? That's Hashem's holiness that's beyond everything. How can that come down even through Avodas HaTshuvah? Even more, it's not understood the contradiction that seems to be between what the Tzemach Tzedek says in Orat Torah on this parsha versus what the Alter Rebbe said in Parshas Nitzavim that we said before. So he says the B'yaysein even more. It's not understood. The Orat Torah Isa and Orat Torah it's brought down that it's Tamua. You remember we said over there that it's Tamua. Why is it Tamua? Why is it a wonder to say Yachal Kamayni? Why is that Tamua? Shafil Ksokadaitach Sheyeh Kamayni Tamua. But even a half a minute to think that it should have been like me is a wonder. So that it's so out of the question that the Tzemach Tzedek says, how does the Medrash even think that we might think that? That's how far it's beyond possibility. The other extreme says, Ubelkudei Torah is Gam Lamaskon. The Torah is brought down also according to the conclusion. It's not just a havamina. It's in the conclusion. Shaydei Tshuva Mamshichim HaKedusha the Kaddish Ani through Tshuva. We do draw down the Kedusha that I am holy. The Lechureim Svar Safuchas, seemingly these are two opposite ideas where the Tzemach Tzedek says it shouldn't even be a question, and the Alter Rebbe says this is what remains in the answer. The Rebbe continues in the next paragraph, line 22. We could say the explanation on this is the Masha cause of Tzemach Tzedek Shizal Tamua, the fact that Tzemach Tzedek wrote that this is a wonder. The intention is not to say that it's not a fact. In fact, it is so, like the Alter Rebbe says in Kutei Torah. But what the Tzemach Tzedek is saying that it's a wonder is she'ein lazem mokim b'seichel gam loy b'chachma shalamayla. There's no room for it intellectually. Even by the chachma of Hashem, the chachma of above, there's also no room for it intellectually. It's a wonder even according to godly intellect. How come? The kivim shall be say the rishtalshlos. Since according to the chain order of descent, shenikva kefisha gazer chachmas yizbarach, that the Seder Ishtalshlus was established according to the way Hashem's wisdom decided and ruled that it should be this way. And Hashem ruled by his wisdom, Nivra hu be'ein aroich l'bayri, top of page Yud, that a creation is incomparable to the creator. Ein shaykh afilu k'salkadaitach sheyeh kamayni. So based on that, it's tamua, it's a wonder. There's no possibility to even consider that it should be that a creation should be like me. But that's all looking from the perspective of intellect. And from the perspective of intellect, it's a wonder. But when we're talking about Hashem's very essence, there are no definitions, there are no delineations, there's no categorizations. The mi yomer loy matasa. Who will tell Hashem what he should do? He can do whatever he wants. The kivun shaydei tshuva magiyim ba'atzmos sof shalom ma'alam ha'chochma. Since through tshuva one reaches the essence of the infinite light of Hashem that is beyond wisdom. Where do we see that is beyond wisdom? So he brings a well-known Maimer Chazal, like it's known that when it says that the person did Chas v'Shalom an Aveda, so they asked the Torah, what should he do? And the Torah said, you should bring a carbon. They asked Chachma what he should do, and the Chachma was like, that's it, he's a goner. He's a goner. He shouldn't even be alive anymore. And Shalom Kadosh Baruch Hu, so they asked Hashem what a person that didn't Aveda should do. Amar, he said, Yase tshuva v'yiskaproloi. He should do tshuva and it will be atoned for him. Da meine Yase tshuva badavke me'akadosh Baruch Hu shalamayla machachim le'Torah. The response that he should do tshuva comes specifically from Hashem that's beyond chachma of Torah. So we see that tshuva is something that has this way beyond any of the limitations that we have before with Chachma. So Chachma's limitations are not Tshuva's limitations. Therefore, he goes on, line 9, L'chein idea Tshuva, therefore through Tshuva, Yachol Kamoini, it could be like me. The Baal Tshuva could draw down the holiness of the Eibishter. Val Pisa Yum Tuk Mashra Pashas Loshna Kosov, Kedoshim Tiyu Ki Kodesh Ani. According to this, will be understood that from the simple expression of the pasuk, it's not like we learn in the Medrash. What's the Medrash saying? The Medrash is saying, Kedoshim Tiyu, you should be holy. And how do we read the Medrash ordinarily? Yachol Kamoini, you would think it's like me. Talmud Loi Marki Kodesh Ani comes telling you, no. It can't be like me. Because it says Ki Kodesh Ani. That's the simple reading of the Medrash. But then that doesn't fit in with the simple reading of the pasuk. In the simple reading of the pasuk, it's Kedoshim Tiyu Ki Kodesh Ani. Why are you going to be holy? Because I am holy. Shekadosh Ani Hu Tam Vazbar Al Kedoshim Tiyu. That the reason why you're going to be holy, or why you could be holy, what's the reason? What's the explanation? Ki Kodesh Ani, because I'm holy. Mashma, from that it's indicated Shatzivui Kedoshim Tiyu, that the command that the Yidden are commanded to be holy is Kedushasam Shal Yisrael Tzrichalis B'Doim Lo Kedushas Yisbarach, that the holiness of the Yid has to be similar to the holiness of the Eibishter. So that's the simple meaning of the pasuk. Based on what we explained, it makes sense. How come? Because through the avoid of tshuva one reaches this level of holiness. And to note from the explanation that those that explain the Medrash, that what does it mean Yachol Kamoini, says the Meir Naim, the Chernobyler says, Be Yachol Kamoini, he says, Yachol Kamoini b'nichusa. It's not the Medrash is asking a question. You would think it should be like me. No. Yachol Kamoini, you could be like me. And that fits in very well with the pasuk. That fits in very well with what we just now explained, that when you're dealing with tshuva is beyond Seder Ishtalshlus. You're dealing with beyond Seder Ishtalshlus. You're dealing with Hashem's very essence over there. There are no limitations. And even a Nivra, even a Yid, could have the Kedusha of the Eibishter. I say, Yesh Loimar, we could say, the Shnei Habiyurim. B'negei lapsukim shebehem nirmozes haTorah shenasan b'roish bonov. Im nichol b'zeh gama pasik kedoshim tiyum. The two explanations that we said before, the way it seems in the Medrash versus the Alter Rebbe. If the two crowns that were given in the heads of his children, that was given in the heads of the Yidden, according to the Alter Rebbe, it's from later on, where it says, Viskadishtem v'yisim kedoshim, and kedoshim tiyu at the beginning of the parsha is not included, versus the Medrash that comes out that Kedoshim Tiyu is one crown that the Yidden have, the beginning of the parsha. Then the next chapter, Viskadishtem Visam Kedoshim, that's the second crown. Those two explanations, the Alter Rebbe versus the Medrash, Vishnei Pirushim B'Yochel Kamoini, and the two explanations in Yochel Kamoini, whether it is a question, you think it could be like me, no way, or Yochel Kamoini, it could be like me. So Tluyim Zebazeh, they are both dependent one upon the other. These two are connected to each other. According to the explanation that you be like me with a question mark. Hakedusha, the Kedoshim Tiyu, the holiness that says at the beginning of Parshas Kedoshim, where it says you shall be holy. Nichleles Mikdashkhem Shalamata Mikdashasi. It's included in your holiness that's below my holiness, which means what it says later on, that you should be the Viskadishtem Visam Kedoshim. V'lachein Kedoshim Tiyu hu b'chlal ha'atoris shenosam b'reish banav. Therefore, the words Kedoshim Tiyu are all part of those crowns that were placed at the head of his sons. According to the explanation that Yochel Kamoini is talking about, it's a statement. He's saying a fact. He's not saying a question. You could be holy like Hashem. So then, Hakedusha the Kedoshim Tiyu, Hiakdusha the Kodesh Ani She'atarash not Latzmai. So when it says you shall be holy, that's all part of the highest, most crown that Hashem took for Himself. That's in Kodesh Ani, because there is no separation between them. We said Ki Kodesh Ani, you could be Kedoshim Tiyu, can be like it. So that is crown number one. And the two crowns that Hashem placed at the head of His children, that's the two parts in the pasuk later on in Kapitel Chav, where it says you shall sanctify yourself and should be holy. What it says in the Medrash, that the holiness of that I am holy is the crown that Hashem took for Himself. So how are you telling me that that's part of Kedoshim Tiyu? That's something that the Yidden have? So he says, though we're now explaining that this holiness also comes down to the Yidden. Yochel Kamoini b'nichusa. We can answer, because the fact that the holiness of I am holy by Baal Tshuva, how does it come down? It's loy mitzadam mitzias shalahem. It's not as a result of who they are. It's not part of their limited, defined being. Ella rather, lefishaydei hatshuva mizgala shorish haneshama shu chadim ha'atzmos. But through tshuva becomes revealed the root of the neshama. That's one with Hashem's essence. The nimtza comes out. The gam la'achrei ha'atorish yeshna b'Yisrael. Even after the crown is there by the Jew, by the Baal Tshuva, he brings down the Kikodesh Honor. It didn't like leave Hashem's head. It doesn't leave the king's head. It's still on the head of the king. It wasn't given to anyone else. Not his children. Because the only reason the Baal Tshuva has it is because of his oneness with Hashem. And therefore, because Tshuva reveals that oneness with Hashem, so it's still Hashem wearing it. That's why he has it, because he's one with Hashem. So that's why it could be both the same time. Kedoshim Tiyu, you have this holiness. Ki Kodesh Ani, because I am holy and I still retain this crown, but with Tshuva you are one with me. Oizvav. Yes, we could say, we said before that Alter Rebbe says this idea that Yochel Kamoini, that really a Yid could draw down this holiness that's beyond your holiness. that we could have even, the Baal Tshuva can have even that level that's beyond Seder Ishtalshlus. So why specifically do we not find this in the Mamorim on this Parsha, or on Parshas Kedoshim? We only find it in the Mamorim of Parshas Nitzavim. Mashenki Badrush in the Parsha saying, as opposed to the Mamorim in our Parsha, but in Yinzeh, Berak Beremes, this is only hinted because the Alter Rebbe says that the Viskadishta Visem Kedoshim different than the way it comes out in the Medrash, and that's how it hints at this Yochel Kamayni B'Nechusa. Masha Kosav Lahedya Bedrushim Elu. What it does say openly in the Mamorim of this week's Parsha is Shagili da Akadosh Halaf Ba'adam Hu Ba'ofen da Alam Al Matal Maila Sharoitz Latis Mimtziusiv L'Kol B'Kadosh. Not the way it's by the Baal Tshuva, but rather the tzaddikim types of way, that the revelation of the higher Kadosh, that can only be when it's an elevation from below to above, that he wants to leave his being and come part of Kadosh. So why is the Kadosh Ani, the Kedushasi that comes down within us, why isn't that at all mentioned in our Parsha? Why wait till Parshas Nitzavim? Parshas Atam Nitzavim Ayoyim Shekorim Kodim Rosh Hashanah, the Parsha of you are standing all today, what you read before Rosh Hashanah was Mana Tshuva, it's a time of Tshuva. Especially according to what's explained in the Torah Shat Tshuva, the Atam Nitzavim Hayoim Kulchem Lifnei Havaya Gomer, the Tshuva of that Parsha that you are standing all before Havaya, you should call on Neshamas Misalas Lamailo Mker Choitzvam. It's that all the Neshamas are rising up together as one in their source, in their root, from where they're hewn out from. Therefore, Badrushim Parsha Nitzavim, in the Mamorim Parsha Nitzavim, Mevur Lahedi, it's explicitly explained, the drawing down of my holiness that's beyond your holiness. Why? Because through the Neshamas Yisrael arising and going up to their source where they were hewn out from, top of page Yud Beis, that is the means how it's possible for the Yidden to be able to draw down to themselves, not going up to it, but drawing it down, that crown that Hashem took for himself. On the other hand, as opposed to that, the Mamorim, like the Maimer of Parshas Emer, the Maimer of this week, that we read in the days of Sfira, the avoid of Sfiras Omer is loy ba'ofen the diluk tshuva. It's not in a way of skipping over. Like Pesach. Pesach is about jumping over. And jumping over indicates the idea of tshuva because it's going outside of oneself. Ela adrab, just the opposite. It's not about jumping. The avoid of Sfiras Omer is beseder vadrage, in an organized way, in a step-by-step way. First Yom Echad, first one day, then Shnei Yomim, then 2 days v'chulu. So therefore, if you're dealing with a level of Seder Vadrage, so this level of my holiness, that's higher than your holiness, comes down only in a hint. Shloimer, we could say, it's upon him the fact that this is brought down, these Mamorim, at least in a hint, seemingly. Even maybe it shouldn't even be hinted because it has nothing to do with this avodah. Because Sfiras Omer is about refining the animal soul in Nefesh Habahamis, and refining the animal soul similar to tshuva. So therefore, on a deeper level, it has to do with tshuva, and tshuva is the one that reaches the kedushasi of the Eibishter. Yes, Lois, the Rebbe says we can add the Parshas Emer Koyim B'Rev Hashanah B'Shabbos Shesmichas L'Pesach Sheni. The majority of years, Parshas Emer is read in the Shabbos in close proximity to Pesach Sheni, like this year as well. Pesach Sheni Uinyan Tshuva, that the second Pesach is the idea of Tshuva, K'mavur Barucha Macher, like it's explained at length in a different place. The Pesach Rishon Uinyan Avoid Tzadikim. The first Pesach is Avoid of Tzadikim. Pesach Sheni Uinyan Avoid Tshuva. The second Pesach is the avodah of tshuva because it's about making up for something that was missed out. Especially there were Tamil Nafsh Adam, Beruchnius, that Tamil Nafsh Adam indicates Averis. Therefore, also in the Mamarim of L'chutei Torah Parshas Emer is hinted the idea of the my holiness is beyond your holiness, Yachol Kamayni b'nichusa, that it could be with a period, not a question. It could actually be that the Eibishter's Kedusha could come down here to us.